Good day, class. So today we are going to have our lesson or our next lesson uh, on the subject of discipline and ideas in social sciences. So this is the last lesson before our exams, which are going to take place next week. So please watch the video carefully. Now, we are going to talk about human environment system approach or the human environment systems approach. And today, our objective or the objective of learning about the human environment system is to distinguish the ways by which human environment interactions shape cultural and natural landscape. So how do we as humans contribute, or how do we as humans influence the background or the world around us, essentially? So let's first define human environment system approach. All right. So the human environment system approach is the interaction of human systems with corresponding environmental slash technological systems. So we can see here the keywords are interaction of human systems. So here in the picture, you see a human hand with a robot, or a slightly robotic or a cybernetic hand uh, touching or reaching out to each other. So we are going to, in the human environment system approach, we look at how these two things, the humans and the environment or technological systems, how they interact or how they correspond with each other. Another thing about human environment system approach is that it can be described as the connections between human beings and the entire ecological unit. So here in the picture we have again human hands and then the earth, or a representation of the ecological unit. So how do we as human beings interact or influence the environment or the ecosystem around us? Okay, systems which combine both human and natural components to show complex interactions and feedback between the mutual dependencies of environment and humans. So I'd like to highlight um, this phrase, mutual dependencies. When we say something like mutual dependencies, it means that both humans and the environment around humans interact, or they depend on each other to strive or to live. So a human in a barren environment cannot survive if he cannot find food or he cannot grow food. And the same with the environment. It does not there are certain environments that cannot thrive without human interaction. But as we all know, there are also some environments that are slowly degrading or slowly decaying because of human interaction. So in human environment systems, we're going to study, or we study how those interactions affect both humans and the environment. So there are three types of human environment interaction. First is the way people adapt to the environment to fulfill their own needs. Next, next is the way people depend on the environment for food, water, timber, natural gas, and the way people modify the environment positively or negatively, like drilling holes and building dams. So the three ways is to the way people adapt, the way people depend, and the way people modify. So these are in a certain order, as you can see. So first, we need to adapt to our environment. Next, when we have adapted to our environment, we need to find a way to depend on it for our basic needs or physiological needs. And then after that, we're going to modify the environment around us to fit our needs specifically, or to fit our needs more. But remember, modifying the environment can also be positive or negative. For example, when we drill holes in the earth, that causes a chain reaction of ecological problems. When we build a dam, that will also cause ecological problems. So it needs to, or we need to be mindful of how we modify our environment. An example of positively modifying the environment is planting trees, picking up trash, things that we know can help the earth or the ecosystem survive or live. Okay, so those are the three types of human environment interaction: the way people adapt, the way people depend, and the way people modify the environment. So there are characteristics of human social systems. First is population size. Of course, the size of a population of a certain barangay will always have an effect on how the ecosystem around that one barangay can be affected. So population size. Next is social organization. If there is social organization, if the people are more disciplined, if there are rules, that will bring less damage to the environment or the system around us. But if there are no rules or no social organization, it's very much it's going to be very hard to impact the environment positively. Next is values. So again, if the society values the surroundings or values nature or the ecosystem around them, then that will have a positive effect. But if not, if they do not value the ecosystem, or it is not in their set values to take care of the ecosystem, that will have a negative effect. Next is technology. The amount of technology, whether industrial or personal technology, will also have an effect on our security, on our ecosystem, or the ecosystem around us. Next is wealth. It's often said that wealthier countries are often more adept to taking care of the environment than third world countries, because they have the resources to help and to take care of their environment. So that's also a characteristic of human social system. Next is education. Educated people again tend to be more adept and more concerned with the environment rather than less educated people. And last is knowledge. So we need to have knowledge of our ecosystem, of what's going on around us in nature or in technology. So that is a characteristic of human social systems, because without the knowledge of the systems or the environment around us, it will be very hard for us to interact and adapt or depend or modify um, our environment. Okay, so those are the characteristics. So here we have fine. So here we have two uh, two concepts in human interaction system. Okay, so we have co-evolution and co-adaptation. So these describe the never-ending process of mutual adjustment and change between human social systems and the environment. So I'd like to highlight here never-ending process of mutual adjustment. Meaning, as we adapt to our environment, the environment will also adapt to us. The plants, the animals, even the soil around us will adapt to human beings, or the human social systems. So there is an example here. There is a certain plant. There are certain plants that we as humans have adapted to, and in turn, those plants have adapted to us. For example, is the banana plant. The banana plant wasn't always the long yellow skinny fruits um, that you're used to today. Humans have adapted to eating them, and they have created different ways of growing them, and in turn the banana plant has developed into a more edible, more nutritious fruit. But 1,000 years ago or so, that wasn't always the case. They were starchy. They weren't as edible as they are today. So that's an example of co-evolution and co-adaptation. The humans adapted to eating the banana plant and made it grow in different places and different environments, and as a result of that, the banana plant evolved and adapted to the humans as well. So that's co-evolution and co-adaptation. So human social systems have to adapt to their specific environment. For example, here, natural phenomena like storms, earthquakes, and force people to react. So we as humans, so mag-edit pa ako. Okay, we as human beings, we need to interact, or we need to adapt to our environment. The environment, hindi pwedeng, yan, Tagalog na ako, hindi pwedeng yung mga tao lang hindi pwedeng yung environment lang ang mag-a-adjust sa atin. Kailangan nag-a-adjust din sa atin, nag-a-adjust din tayo sa environment natin. For example, here, of course, when there are phenomena like storm, alam nga namang sabihin natin sa environment, tumigil ka sa kakaulan, ikaw ang mag-adjust sa akin kasi ako yung tao. No, we need to adjust as well as the environment. Yan. So for example, here, they live in a cold climate. As you can see, there is snow. So they are adapting. So they have thick layers, they have jackets, and they have coats. Okay. So here is an example of how we can affect the environment. So ecosystem services. Okay. So we have supporting, provisioning, regulating. So this is just an example. So yeah, good. This is how we can affect the environment, and this is how we see the good effects of our effect on the environment. So examples of different kinds of human environment interactions: the use of natural resources. Of course, this is an automatic example of how we interact with our environment. Of course, we use natural resources to both survive and as a way to access funds. So here, people use different kinds of natural reserves like timber, metal, and oil in the day-to-day lives, from clothes, transport services, constructions, electronic devices, and other items that are used all need different resources so as to be produced. So that's a good way of looking at the environment system the human environment interactions. How we interact with our environment by using natural resources. Next is deforestation. That's another example, although a negative example of how we interact with our environment, because we humans tend to abuse nature in a very negative way, although there is no positive way of abuse. But yeah, we become a major contributor to soil erosion, and the forests get cut down and the trees are not replaced or permitted to grow back. So that's a negative example of interaction between humans and the system. Next is energy resources. So using renewable or non-renewable energy. So energy resources using renewable or non. Okay, so that's the end of our lesson about human environment systems. So again, this is the last lesson of our This is the last lesson of our quarter. So the next time we see each other for our lesson will be next quarter, second quarter. So we'll be going. We'll be having our exam next week. So I hope that you study well and that you answer all of the questions correctly. So good luck on your exams. That's all for today. I'll see you when I see you.